Zoom. Cool. So what I'm going to do is I will mute myself and be in the background. So you'll see my camera switches off and the webinar goes live. So right away, what I'd recommend is just waiting maybe, or like start speaking when it goes live, but waiting 30 seconds or so just to ensure that everyone's in the audience. And then we'll kick off.
And then if I do share a slide or two, you'd have to enable presenting, just so you know.
Oh, is that not enabled? Oh.
Just
can you see that option at the bottom?
Yeah, it said you had disabled, host disabled.
Okay, well, I'll enable that during the time you guys are chatting.
Okay.
Cool, well, let's jump into it. As soon as my camera's off, it'll go live. Best of luck to you both.
Thanks.
Bye.
All right, we're live. We're just gonna wait a couple of seconds, few seconds, maybe 10, 20 seconds for people to trickle in. We have a lot of people signed up to this, so just give everyone some time to log in and go through the usual Zoom issues. All right, I think we're good to go now. Hopefully everyone who wanted to come in should have come in. So hello everyone and welcome. So my name is Reda Farhan. I'm an analyst here at Finimize, and welcome to the last session of day one of the Crypto Summit. This 2-day summit is all about empowering you, our audience, with the tools to invest smartly and safely. That's why we've partnered with Ledger. Ledger are famous for creating the safest way to store your crypto. They've also launched Ledger Live, a brokerage platform to help you buy, sell, and exchange crypto. Ledger will be keeping you safe, and Finimize will be keeping you smart. So not only we're so excited to have you all today because not only is this the biggest virtual event for crypto investors, we've also launched the world's first finance server to be verified by Discord. So you can chat, share ideas, and become smarter together. All the information can be found in the emails you got before the event or in the link we'll post in the chat box right now. So with that, let's move on to the event, the final event of this of the day one of the summit. And if you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat box with your name, where you're tuning in from, and answer the poll you should see on your screen right now. Now, the way this is going to work is it's going to be a 15-minute workshop followed by a 15-minute audience Q&A, which takes me to my final point. Don't forget to ask your questions in the Q&A box below, and be sure to upvote your favorite questions so we can get through the most upvoted questions first, and that's better use of everyone's time essentially. So today we're talking about the outlook for Bitcoin and Ether and how to value different crypto projects, making you a pro at valuing the next big crypto play. And joining us today to help us with all of that is Beth Kinding, a tech analyst at IO Fund. Beth, it's amazing to have you with us. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Reda. Very happy to be here. I appreciate Finimize and Ledger asking me to speak.
No, thank you for joining us. So let's kind of kick right in. And this is something I kind of sort of struggle with, and I'm sure a lot of individual people sort of struggle with, is sort of where to start. So like, as in, what's the exact methodology, or what's your methodology that you used for analyzing specific crypto or DeFi projects?
I think that's a really great question. I can go through some of the key metrics that have emerged and are becoming very popular. And then I can go through the unique process that the IO Fund uses. And just in case people aren't aware of what we do, we run a tech portfolio and we publish real-time trade notifications. So when we enter Bitcoin, and when we exit Bitcoin, we drove industry-leading gains on our tech portfolio through this process of knowing when things are topping and when things are bottoming. And so we're basically a research site, and we work with members on letting them know every trade we make. So our process is unique because we have to compete. We have to compete with Wall Street. And so our gains matter this year, and our gains matter also 3 to 5 years out. I always recommend all tech stocks, and I would consider crypto, very similar to a tech stock. It's obviously a hypergrowth tech play, 3 to 5 years minimum. I mean, if you are checking your crypto pricing after entering within a month or two, you're, in my opinion, my subjective opinion, you're not doing it right. I mean, you have to be able to hold for 3 to 5 years. Tech needs time to breathe. It is a very ambitious thing that tech does. It's taking over and disrupting, in this case, the internet and the financial system. I mean, that is a big deal. And so it's going to take some time to let that come to fruition. And if you're too much of a day trader, if you will, it's going to be really, really frustrating. So a couple of valuations that have emerged is total value locked. So Ethereum, I'll just give you some of the leading indicators, and then I'll go again through our process. So this might take a couple of minutes to get through it all. But total value locked, Ethereum had a near monopoly on, and around March, it started to settle to where today Ethereum has about 70% total value locked on smart contracts. So total value locked is beginning to emerge as a leading indicator. If you divide market cap by TVL, that could potentially replace traditional valuations, meaning how we value tech stocks. That might be more in line with, price to sales, things like that. The other one that seems to come up a lot is the size of the ecosystem. I'm sure you guys are aware that Solana has done quite well. One leading indicator of that is it has 1.2 million monthly active users, and it has about 500 decentralized applications on the ecosystem. So just paying attention to how strong that ecosystem is, that's going to be another leading indicator. Some people track institutional inflows and they relate it to assets under management. So it's stated in a percentage of assets under management. In terms of institutional inflows, that can often tell you if it's also a leading indicator. Monthly active users, I think I covered that one. The network hash rate, that's a great one for Bitcoin. It can usually tell you if it's trending up or trending down. Here's the thing though, crypto's in a very speculative stage. So valuations like this work a lot better once things are stable and you have real comparables and you've got real long trading history. We obviously have long trading history for Bitcoin, and we're starting to get there with Ethereum, but some of these altcoins, which are incredibly promising and that we participate in, do not have long trading histories. They do not have a lot of comparables. I will tell you that as far as the market cap goes, with what blockchain is setting out to do, which is they are right now putting the number out of people that, the third party analysts that I trust, 10 trillion GDP by $10 trillion contributed to GDP by 2027. So I like to put things into perspective of the mobile device, because a lot of you understand and we're alive and well and alive and becoming investors, or were investors during the mobile era. The mobile era maybe would be 2008 to 2018. I would put it somewhere in there. That was $5 trillion to the GDP. So we're looking at double blockchain in the next 4 to 5 years. So I'm not stressed out about market caps right now. That is not something, maybe in 2027, I'll do a new webinar, or you guys can do a new Q&A and we can talk about some that might be tapping out. So here's the deal though. I want to be really clear that we don't really use those tools to determine our entries and our exits on Bitcoin and Ethereum and altcoins. What we use is sentiment. So if you look at cryptocurrency, and I don't know how much more time I have on this one question, but it's the main question, so I'm gonna take my time. Cryptocurrency has the word currency in it. It doesn't actually function like a currency because it's finite. And we just saw the Fed print trillions and trillions of dollars. So obviously fiat currencies are not operating like cryptocurrency, which in some cases is decreasing if it's burning through transaction fees. So it also can act as a commodity during times of inflation, but it does not trade like a commodity. There's complex derivatives market around commodities, and banks are making futures contracts. So in our opinion, the way that cryptocurrency trades is very similar to a hypergrowth tech stock. Crypto is hypergrowth tech, basically. And I did have a slide for you that maybe I'll show at some point. If you look at the tech market, the market darling this year, which was Upstart, and you overlay it with the price movements of Bitcoin and Ethereum, you'll see that the sentiment is moving those very so similarly that if I showed you the chart, you would not be able to tell the difference between hypergrowth stock, Upstart, and Bitcoin and Ethereum, because they've all taken those bigger hits, 30, 40, 50% down, all within this year. So that's what I mean by sentiment is we do not see that with Apple, right? Like we do not see that with Walgreens or Walmart or, whatnot. So that's lucky for us because we happen to specialize in hyper growth. So we are constantly gauging price or using price to gauge sentiment. And your entries and your exits can get very, very skillful when you're zeroing in on sentiment. And at some point, if I share my screen, I can show you some of the entries and exits that we've made based around sentiment. But just to clarify, what do I mean by sentiment? So around 2018, Bitcoin was hitting $19,000. Everyone wanted to buy, but then it dropped down to $4,000 and nobody wanted to buy. That's what I mean by sentiment, is that you will take something that's very viable. We've talked at length with our members, and I've done a lot of free newsletters around how secure Bitcoin is, why global populations will adopt Bitcoin. We wrote that a couple of years ago. But regardless of all of those fundamental reasons, Bitcoin was attractive at 19,000 and people were scared out of their minds at $4,000. So that's what I mean by sentiment, is that sentiment will top out. It just did with the tech stock Upstart. And we are here about once a year with tech stocks. And we happen to be here right now. November was when sentiment dropped out of tech stocks. So I don't know if I have time to share my screen, but maybe towards the end of the Q&A, I'll show you some of our entries and exits that we used by gauging sentiment.
No, that would be amazing. So if I can maybe just summarize that, because you provided a really nice metric. So let's say if you wanted to kind of gauge a little bit sort of the fundamentals of a coin, or if you want to try to assess the valuation, you mentioned a really nice ratio, which is the market cap divided by the total value locked, right? And you can kind of interpret that as a sort of price to sales ratio, you said. So that can kind of give you sort of a cross comparison of different coins in terms of sort of valuation.
Yes. However, the reason why you would work with valuation is to make sure that you have a smart entry, right? And that you're not buying at the top or when it's overextended and there's no gains left, at least no gains left for a while. That is the point of valuation. Make sure you're getting a fair value. My point is that you can either see it as a great thing or as a negative. We see it as a great thing, regardless of what those valuations are. Sentiment is what drives crypto. So if the sentiment is peaking, even if you could make a case for the valuation, okay, again, Ethereum is a great example. Ethereum this year has performed quite well, especially against metaverse stocks. It's around 500%. I haven't checked it in a week or two, but 500% year to date. But the total value locked was decreasing, so its valuation was going up. But it doesn't matter because sentiment was so strong. So nobody is going to sit down and say, hey, Ethereum's valuation is getting out of control because, it's going up while total value locked is going down. All that matters is sentiment driving Ethereum forward right now.
So you mentioned all these kind of, different factors like number of active users, institutional inflows, etc. But are you basically saying that the most important thing is basically sentiment?
80% of it is sentiment, maybe 90%. I would also say that this is after you've decided you like the product. This is after you've decided the product has something really unique about it. Maybe it's transactions per second or proof of history with Solana. Okay, great. So now you like Solana. You need to make sure that it's solving a real pain. The more pain that it solves, the more secure your investment. So you should be able to communicate why your investment is solving a big issue or a big problem. And I'm assuming you've done that groundwork, and now you're trying to figure out, do I enter, or are the valuations getting so stretched that I need to get out? Once you're at that point, which most of us are with Bitcoin and most of us are with Ethereum, and you're probably getting, if you don't have altcoins already, we have some that we like quite a bit that we've been in for a couple of years. You may have some altcoins in that in there too, which is that I truly understand the product thesis, and now I'm trying to enter. What do I do? And I just want to put this out there that even the biggest Bitcoin bulls struggle with this. I mean, they got in maybe a long time ago, but do they trim? Do they add? When do they trim? When do they add? I mean, that's a question that it does not matter when you enter it. It's a question that constantly needs to be answered.
Okay, so then do you want to perhaps share your screen and then just give us, one example, just showing us how you use sentiment to basically time your buy and sell decisions?
Yep, just 1 second. Just gonna make sure I have it up. Okay, I kind of want to start with this one here.
I think we'll have time. We have maybe, let's say, 2-3 minutes tops before we'll move on to the audience Q&A. So maybe if you have like one example that kind of sums it up.
I'll go through 3 things really quick because I just want to make sure you guys get the most out of this presentation. So this is very simple, rudimentary technical analysis, but I just want to show you how Bitcoin has respected these bull flags. So even when it took 3.5 years to reclaim its all-time high, which is clearly not a bubble. I love when people say Bitcoin's a bubble. Cisco still has not reclaimed their all-time high, and Bitcoin did in 3.5 years. But this just shows you how well it respects technical analysis and sentiment, which again is gauged through price. So you can see here that I said what determines Bitcoin's price. I just want to show you that these are some of the areas that we bought, when we sold, and when we bought again. And this was using sentiment and price. And then I thought I'd give you guys some new price targets, because this is something that this is actually what the portfolio manager works very hard on. His name's Knox Ridley, and his targets have been very incredible over the last few years. So nobody can give you a guarantee. Anything can happen. These are just opinions. But the price target right now is 108 to 160 before we are expecting the next bigger sell-off. So what we will do is enter, and towards the top, trim. We will never fully exit, but we have to trim because we cannot take that hit on our portfolio performance. So when we get into that box, we're going to be scaling back. So just to show you a little bit of our strategy. And again, it's because our goals might be a little different than yours, which is that we have to compete every year as well as long term. So we'll be buy, and then we'll be selling up here, and we will be putting this on Twitter and our free newsletter too. So if you guys are curious as to what we're doing. So that's it. Oh, I lost
sorry,
you.
I was on mute.
Okay.
Sorry, that's absolutely amazing. Maybe just like a very quick follow-up from my end, because what you see in the stock market, for example, with the evolution of technical analysis, is that you have some patterns start to work. Many people start to implement them, they get crowded, and then the patterns don't start to work anymore. Do you kind of see similar dynamic happening with crypto, or do you think these patterns are reliable and could potentially stand, stand time essentially?
With Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's very reliable. I think with altcoins, it can be more unreliable because it can be easier to manipulate a smaller market cap. So not necessarily manipulate, but machines are usually trained on stock markets and crypto. And if it's too well known, it can be trained to manipulate that. But so far, Bitcoin and Ethereum, it's been very successful, and same with altcoins. And again, it's because it moves in waves of sentiment. So that's key. And altcoins do so even more. I mean, it's very sentiment driven. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really insightful, Beth. We're going to move on to audience Q&A, and the most top upvoted question comes from Joshua, which is, what's your favorite project right now?
Yeah, I guess what I would say to that is we are excited about the Ethereum competitors. We think anytime there's a little bit of weakness in the leader with rolling out Ethereum 2.0 and just the gas fees, things like that, that's an opportunity. We obviously will continue to hold Ethereum, but I would say across the board, the Ethereum competitors are very interesting in terms of a risk reward perspective.
All right, thank you very much. And the next most upvoted question is from Bradley. I think we kind of answered this. Maybe if you want to add something to it, but what tools do you use to measure sentiment?
Yeah, this is TradingView. And I do want to let you know that we work as a team. And so the chartist at the company is Knox Ridley. I am the fundamental thesis. So I'm the one that says, get into Bitcoin, and I don't care what the market or the news says, we're not getting out. And here's why. And global adoption, lower incomes will adopt it. And we said this years ago, economic uncertainty will drive it forward. And then here comes COVID and here comes El Salvador. But so he has a certain specific process, but he's also easy to follow on Twitter. And so as far as the exact tools that he uses for sentiment, that would be more a question for him.
Thank you. And then moving on, so we have a question from Helena, which is, what is the best way to spot intrinsic value in crypto projects?
Yeah, I mean, as far as intrinsic value goes, I would say that at this point, there is no true intrinsic value because we're not participating in a centralized equity. It's decentralized. And for my value, it's if the token is going to go up. Now, obviously, if you're a venture capitalist and you're going to fund projects at that level, then that is very important to you. But for me, what I need to know is this company going to have a high rate of adoption? And without seeing more adoption, there is really no true intrinsic value right now, in my opinion.
Thank you. And then we have a question from Shiv. Interested in getting your views on Tether, so USDT, and whether if the rumors turn out to be true that they are not backed or their commercial paper portfolio gets 50 cents to $1, would it pose a massive systematic risk to the entire crypto markets?
I believe that there will always be a questionable company and project within the crypto community. We are not in Tether. It's not one that I cover. We cover ones with strong management teams. I would say if you're worried about that kind of thing, there's a few out there that the management teams came from Ethereum. They came from other corporations, Qualcomm, things like that. And I do not actually know about Tether's management, but I'm saying if you want to reduce risk, typically you want to know where they came from. So I'm not quite sure where they came from, but that's just one way to make sure it's very legit. Follow management. And it's true for stocks too.
Thank you. And then next question comes from Brian, who's being very honest, saying, as an investor, I'm in crypto for the money. So beyond the tech and transaction fees, what makes the price of coins go up?
Besides the
tech and transaction fees. So the technology and then the transaction fees.
Yeah, I mean, it's, the rate, it's really the rate of adoption. So obviously the more popular Ethereum became, the more its coin went up. And now we have extremely high gas fees because it can't quite scale to meet the demand. So I would say that it's still kind of the same basics, which is that what makes a great company and a great project is the number of people that have adopted it and the rate of adoption. So the more projects, the more apps, the more partnerships, if it's middleware, the more that it's being used, the greater the value will be. So I hope that makes sense. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question right, but it goes back to those monthly active users. It goes back to how many decentralized apps have been built. It goes back to how big the developer ecosystem is. And you can tell that, right? Because they'll do very large incentives to move developers over to their platform. And it's a chicken and the egg. You got to have apps in order to have users. And who wants to create an app if it's not very mature? So it's a chicken and the egg. And that chicken and the egg is a great one to track because those who have it are going to very slowly create a moat for themselves, which is we've been through it, right, with Apple. And if I've created an app ecosystem and I have more users because they like the wide range of apps that I have, then more developers will come because they have more users. There will be more apps and more. So that's definitely a key thing. And then of course, going back to the pain point that it solves, one big issue that keeps happening, I suppose, is how Bitcoin is not very stable. So how can you really run mobile payments? Then there's market makers that create a lot of stability through stable coins and swaps. So now, so it's like that is also key to the value, I would say, of a crypto, is what kind of problem is it solving?
Okay, and then the next one comes from Sean, who's asking, how can you tell if a coin is oversold or overvalued? CHIA, chai or chia, I don't know how to pronounce this, is a great example of a coin with real utility that is mining using clean and sustainable energy, yet has endured a massive sell-off over the last 6 months. So how do you tell if a coin is oversold or overvalued?
Actually, I know Chia. It's BitTorrent's founder, I believe, and Bram, I think is his first name. I can't remember his last name right now, but we actually, at one point, I pinged the technical analyst who's the portfolio manager, and I said, can you look at this token? And he looked and he said, no way. Sentiment's not holding. Price is not going to hold well on that one. So again, I think that there's a process where you'll need to figure out where the sentiment is. And I would have to go back and look at Chia. I know it's got a strong founder, and I just can't quite remember what its utility is. There's lots and lots of tokens on the market. But yeah, so we did look at that one at one point due to the strong team.
It's definitely hard to keep track of all the tokens out there. So, so next one comes from Alessandro, basically asking for your opinion on Ethereum 2.0.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion as in when will it fully 100% be launched, or my opinion as to
I think
like
so
if
the
it'll be
question
really
was
effective and
basically
keep up with Solana at that point, that kind of thing, or
so the question was just, yeah, what was your opinion? But I guess, yeah, in terms of, will it, in terms of sort of the competitors, do you think it's the upgrade Ethereum need? Is it going to be perhaps kind of the winner takes all there, or just what's your view on all that?
this is like complete opinion, of course, and we won't know until it all unfolds. But I've seen this before where you have this creative genius who creates something, but may not have the organization and the proper product roadmap to execute. And, so I'm saying that Ethereum needs to execute, and it's a messy product roadmap, if you want my opinion. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for Ethereum competitors, which is why when I was asked what is some projects that I'm looking at, I would say that if you have Bitcoin and you have Ethereum, I think that the risk reward on Ethereum competitors is very good right now. I think it's low risk and very high reward. And that's because I'm not entirely, we're not sure if Ethereum can execute. The product roadmap in front of them is messy. Of course, the big thing going for Ethereum is the developer ecosystem is second to none for crypto. And they have a lot of corporations that have agreed to work with Ethereum. I want to say there's at least 50, maybe 100, maybe more than 100. There's so many that to change that is going to take a lot of work for the other networks.
And maybe just a follow up for me on that, in your opinion, again, just your view, maybe can you give us a list of, let's say, 3 coins that you view as the most promising Ethereum competitors? Because there's quite a few out there.
Yeah, I mean, boy, I would say that the ones that keep coming up in our research, and I'm not saying we own them or not. I know that Algorand comes up a lot, but that is geared towards stable coins. My concern with that is it's, I think, $1 to validate, and it's very low. And I'm not sure how that'll pan out, but Algorand comes up a lot. Solana, as you know, probably needs no introduction. Polkadot, interoperability of Polkadot, maybe not an Ethereum competitor, but essential to the whole ecosystem as it continues to be built, because it can be interoperable with anything that is built into the future, which is key. You have Cardano, and you've got, which is the most well-known probably at this point, Ethereum co-founder, strong network and moving towards open source. Avalanche is obviously done quite well recently. I'm keen on that one because I think the founder could maybe have something up his sleeve in terms of how long he's been working on crypto. And my understanding is time to finality on Avalanche keeps it competitive with Solana, even though transactions per second are much lower. By the time the transaction finalized and everything, it starts to become more competitive. So it'll all come down to who can attract developers and who can attract applications.
Amazing. And the first one you said was Algorand?
Yeah, Algorand.
Algorand. Sorry, I just didn't catch that one.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I would have to double check. I mean, we've analyzed it and it's been put on a short list, but I need to double check that, to become part of the, to become a validator, and in order to decentralize the security, that it's only like $1 or something like that. So I want to say it's called PPOS. So it's additional higher up proof of stake that they have, but that new system that they use is very low requirement to be part of the proof of stake validator system. So
awesome. Thank you so much. That was extremely insightful. Maybe just sort of my kind of takeaways, my sort of wrap up. So, we touched on kind of drivers of crypto, looking at market cap to total value locked, which could be an interesting way to assess valuation metric, number of active users, institutional inflows, network hash rate, but perhaps the most important, Beth, you said, is sentiment. And then the way you kind of view crypto as, basically hyper growth tech. And when analyzing a specific project, always kind of look at the management. Is it solving a real, genuine problem, solving a proper sort of pain point, and are more and more people adopting it, which I found super interesting. And you said Ethereum 2.0, Ethereum competitors. You said very interesting to look at because potentially attractive risk to reward there essentially.
Yeah,
So,
pure proof of stake is what Algorand has. Somebody had put it in the comments and I did recall. So, yep.
Awesome. Thank you. That was super insightful for me. That was amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone as well for tuning in. Please don't forget we're partnering with Ledger for the summit. So if you haven't checked them out already, follow the link in the chat box. Tomorrow we will be minting actually the first ever Finimize NFT. So tune in to the Discord server at 4 p.m. tomorrow when this drops. Beth, well, I just want to say actually this is let me just move this over here. So this was the last session of day one. Everyone, look, we'll be exploring crypto, NFT, crypto ETFs, NFTs, digital assets, and sports and gaming, and much more tomorrow. So make sure you tune in. The first session is with Neda Whitney, Head of Marketing at Christie's, and Ian Rogers, who's the Chief Experience Officer at Ledger. And it starts at 3 p.m. UK time. So we'll see you all there. Beth, thank you once again on behalf of Finimize, on behalf of everyone tuning in, our community. This was amazing, really insightful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening or afternoon, depending on where you are, and see you next time. Bye-bye.